Hey folks, this is Rhykker. Sombra is a new hero that will be coming to Overwatch, and Blizzard has been laying hints for us in videos and other sources for a while now. In fact, just this week, Blizzard released a ridiculously, dastardly hidden, code-breaking clue that required some insane Illuminati stuff, CIA, FBI, cracking in order to figure out. We're going to go over this latest clue, and we're also going to go over some of the other lines of evidence that we had, especially now that the dust has cleared with Ana releasing. It turns out there was a lot of confusion. People were combining clues for Ana and Sombra, thinking they were the same person, but now we gotta move those two apart. We're gonna figure out what's left now of our evidence for Sombra. So again, we're gonna start with that crazy ridiculous code. Then we're going to move into what evidence we presently have that is Sombra related, and finally we'll talk about a couple theories that we're left with right now. So on Tuesday, a video went up in which game director Jeff Kaplan talks about the release of Ana and the other updates in the latest Overwatch patch. But people noticed at the very end of the video that there was this odd sort of television distortion blip. And they took a look at the frames and saw some, they were able to break it down into a few distinct images. We'll slap those up here, but the one in particular in which the code was hidden is this one here, which at first blush just looks like generic TV static, but some astute observers noticed actually seem to be barcodes. So at that point, folks, it was basically solved. I mean, there was just a couple more steps to do, but super simple stuff. You guys can follow along, do it yourselves. Real easy. All you gotta do is you take that image, cut it up into sections, scan each of those barcodes, convert those into hex values, convert the hex values into binary, convert the binary into a QR code, scan the QR code, and you get your hidden message. Super easy peasy, guys. You know, a monkey can do this. But seriously, folks, assuming you are like me and not genius gorillas, we're gonna go through this a little bit. And we actually had a crack team of Redditors working on this. They were collaborating in an IRC chat. That's how you know they're pro hackers. IRC, folks. That's how you know. And I read through the chat log, I followed their steps. It was really exciting to follow them on their journey of cracking this code. But as we were saying, the first steps to decoding this was separating out that image into vertical segments. Each vertical segment is a separate barcode. You put that through a barcode scanner like this website here, and you're going to get a bunch of hex values. Now, thankfully, this website is smart enough to take those hex values and translate it right away. So that skips us one step. So we get a bunch of lines, that an alphanumeric code. Now, at that point, our crack team of decoders were a little bit stumped. They were trying to figure out different ways of working with this current data, trying to find patterns, trying to run different means of decoding, trying to find messages. They tried the same thing that they did on the previous code. Didn't work. They could tell that whatever this was, it was going to be a lot more difficult to solve. So then it was Reddit user Zappu, or Zappus, who was the one who figured out the Zor23, the specific algorithm, if you will, to run on the previous message to decode that. That suggests converting to binary. And it's when he did that, when he translated all that into binary, these coders started to look through. They reformatted it in different ways, and eventually started to notice patterns within the binary. And it was the user known as Six that was the first to suggest that it might be a QR code. He was recognizing some pattern that was making him think, this seems like it might be a QR code. Now, at that point, there was a bit of dissent among the decoders. Some were saying, no, it can't be. Others seemed more sure. Some thought it was just coincidental, but they kept at it. Some start pointing out how there might be errors in certain steps that they've done, and others are working on Python scripts and Ruby scripts. Basically different, they're basically making mini programs, if you will, to run various means of decoding parts of this, to alter the numbers in some way. Effectively, a lot of these things could be done manually, but would take an eternity to do, so get a computer script to rearrange and run, again, different algorithms, if you will, on these sequences in order to just translate the numbers, convert the numbers, work with the numbers in different ways to try to find a pattern or some kind of solution. And it's at that point that user Kraus says, if you look at this, we're going to throw up the image there, then the QR markers are obvious. They're obvious, folks. Look how obvious those QR markers are. Don't you see them? I totally see them. You don't see them? Dummies? Come on. It's obvious. I'm not even going to point it out, because that's how obvious it is. It's right there. Super obvious. So my understanding at this point is that they're working with the binary, and they're basically turning the binary into an image, wherein every 0 corresponds to a white pixel and every 1 corresponds to a black pixel. It might be the other way around, I'm not entirely sure, but that seems to be what they're doing. So they start working on, again, transposing this, and they're getting like sort of odd strings that are starting to look something like a QR code. They work with it a bit more because it seems it's a simple matter of just taking that, chopping it into 3 and rearranging it into a square, but turns out then they were missing a line, so there was a bit more last minute stuff, and they're racing, they know they're close, and there's clearly excitement in the chat room, and then finally they pull it together, someone comes out with the finalized QR, gives the translated message. And so once again, it turned out to be another Spanish phrase, just like that last one. Again, clearly Sombra. And it said, Estuvo eso facilito. Ahora que tengo su atención, déjenme se las pongo más difícil. I probably pronounced that wrong. But what that translates to is, was that easy? Well, now that I have your attention, allow me to make things much more difficult. That's the message. I was hoping there would be more to it than that, but that's the message. I think that was in reference to perhaps the previous code that was cracked very easily. This one is certainly an order of magnitude more difficult. And I'm a bit concerned about where we're going to go next. Unless there is another hidden code already in that video, which I highly doubt. It seems that they're suggesting there's another more difficult clue to come. But from this, we can clearly glean that Sombra is some kind of hacker-type character. I mean, all evidence seems to point towards that at this point. She works with information, code. She's probably going to be some kind of hacker, secret agent-type character. Some people were suggesting she's going to be a stealth-based character, and people were pointing to some data mined files that were recently found. There was a lot of data mined voice files, a huge thread about that, with just tons and tons of data mined audio. And from that, people were gleaning, oh, there's going to be a stealth hero. Confirmed, because there's voice files about that. And yes, you do hear this.
There's a hidden enemy here.
Which does seem to suggest some kind of stealth-based character. However, Blizzard has openly stated that they experimented with the stealth in the past, and they do not want that as a mechanic in their game. So, yes, Blizzard has been known to change its mind in the past. However, what I feel is more likely is that these are simply old voice lines from when stealth was in the game. Further proof for this is that there are other voice files in there that are clearly deprecated, that are from an older version of the game. You have, for instance, Winston talking about gaining levels, which, again, Overwatch in the past used to have some level up mechanic like Battleborn has, that throughout a match you'd be gaining sort of XP and you'd be evolving along a skill tree. Blizzard decided to remove that. But the voice files are still in there. When you data mine, you find old stuff as well. You're not just finding new stuff, you're finding old information. So I suspect that is not a clue towards a new hero, towards Sombra. There were some other odd sounds found in the data mine file. Some people think it might suggest some kind of weird omnic character that arguably sounds like distortion and weird hacking sounds, like signals. It's really a stretch to say that Sombra could be absolutely anything. We're trying to find evidence where none may exist, but it's a thing. You're aware of it. Choose to do with that information what you will. That goes over the extent of the new info we have. As for the old stuff that we're left with, we still have that interaction where Reaper says, Where's Sombra when you need her? We still have that newspaper in Dorado, that picture of Sombra, this sort of weird cloaked figure that sort of has like omnic legs, it kind of looks like, maybe. Slender, feminine, and covered in a poncho, perhaps? Some kind of weird cloak or poncho. And of course, the newspaper headline was "Quien es Sombra? Who is Sombra?" And of course, that's Spanish, and Sombra means shadow. On that same map, you also have those classified files showing Soldato 76, Soldier 76, Jack Morrison, who is Soldier 76, and Sombra, and you also have in the Lumerico bank facility, unauthorized access protocol Sombra. That's translated from Spanish. So that's the extent of the evidence we currently have on Sombra. Anything else that we've been over in our previous videos was about Ana, who's now been revealed, and is the support sniper, so where does that leave us? Who is Sombra? I guess there's that question, right? There's that newspaper headline. And the current line of evidence seems to suggest she might be some kind of, again, a hacking type character. Who knows what that could mean? She might still be a stealth character. We don't know. Again, the name Shadow, the whole hacker thing, she might be some kind of spy. Maybe we'll have a disguise mechanic, like in TF2, where maybe she can't go invisible, but she can disguise herself as someone on your team. I mean, the fact that Rhykker is the one saying, "Where's Sombra when you need her?" seems to suggest that they are aligned. And old theories where she would have been Ana would have been that, okay, this was back when Rhykker was a good guy with Overwatch, but if she's not Ana, then, okay, is this going to be another former Overwatch agent that used to work with Rhykker? Maybe. She might have been a member of Blackwatch, Reaper's covert ops segment of Overwatch. It could be that she's just a plain bad guy. Maybe she's with Talon. Maybe she's just worked with Rhykker since he became Rhykker. Who knows? But then there's also that tie to Soldier 76, right? Their files were found together. Soldier 76 has some voice lines about investigating what Lumerico's been up to. So maybe Sombra and 76 have similar goals in trying to investigate Lumerico, raid their facilities. And if that's the case, then maybe Sombra isn't a bad guy, or maybe she's neutral, or who knows, really. But at this point, who can she be that we've seen evidence for? Well, we look at Soldier 76's hero video, and we see, alright, could she be that little girl, Alejandra? Or could she be Alejandra's mom? At this point, if she's not one of those two people, she's probably going to be someone we've never seen before. In which case, she might be an Omnic. We already have a neutral Omnic, Bastion. We have a good Omnic, Zenyatta. Could we have an evil Omnic now? Let's hear your thoughts, folks. What are your thoughts on all this? Quien es Sombra, folks? Who is Sombra? What do you think we're gonna get? That wraps up this video. Thanks for watching. Check out these other videos, and subscribe to join Rhyker's Raiders to be alerted when the next Overwatch video goes live. Now wait a minute, did you guys see that? Let's pause frame and enhance. What's that? Oh, some kind of text code? Well, is that random gibberish, or did Blizzard leave us a hidden message? If you transcribe all those digits,